Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the Canyon. Welcome back to an installment of the Weekly Update, State of the Canyon. Slash, put a slash through it. It's in a Came from the Workbench 26 takeover. I'm starting this filming after spending almost dead 3 hours working on 26, the Rattle Cat. And I agree. We're going to go through the comments a little bit. I've got comments up on a screen, right? Like, here's the camera. Comments are right up here. I'm going to go through a couple comments. Coming up over the weekend and into next week, we've got some junk views. We've got, I realized I had not tested the OG Super Swamper Rocks tire, the Hyrax clone. I had not tested these. They were the first set of tires that I ever bought. I talk about that more in that junk view. And then at some point following that, Chanmu's Rock Terrain Crawler Tire, 115 by 50 is what they claim. Look at this burly boy. Look at those big treads. I like these little hexagons in there. I don't know. It's like cyberpunk. We will test those as well. We've got other stuff. We've got other things. You want to talk about rapid turnaround? What was it? Was it Thursday? That it was. It came from the Workbench 27, episode 2, the big white Bronco, whatever color it turns out to be, and I said it needed weight. The owner of that vehicle and RPP Hobby not messing around. I already have knuckle weights for that. I don't have any of the other stuff. We're going to wait till we get all the pieces together, and then we'll get another installment of 26. We might see ourselves clear to starting on 28, whatever 28 is going to be. A-Main should be showing up with the stuff for the Raptor that is moving out, the Raptor that's going to be built. I've got most of what I need for the Raptor. I'm kind of committed to sticking to straight axles for that Raptor build. It's a person that's not a rock crawler. That's why it's getting it over. I'm pointing over to where you can't see. There's a cardboard box with one of those Benedict Harry 2-speeds, the same one that's in Clank. And I think that will serve really well for someone who is not a rock crawler by trade. So that's what's coming up. We're going to talk about our boy Rattle Cat here in a minute, and we might as well just cruise him on over, so you have something other to look at than Susan just sitting there. That's Rattle Cat, y'all. He was a red cat, and now no red cat remains. So I've got comments brought up in my YouTube studio. Some way overthink things, it says up at the top, from Diesel Dabs 7104. I don't know who that's directed to. Do I overthink things? I don't know, perhaps. My response would be to that is that most way underthink things and are just willing to accept what they are handed. Stanford Jesus 7427. So you basically built a rig from parts again. Yeah. That's what we do. That's what we do here. Underneath this is whatever we needed to make it what it is. Ooh, I am currently trying to prone to Rome. And that's Rome, like in Italy. I am currently trying to set up a custom buggy. My chassis connections are the same level vertically. Okay, so he's got parallel links. The upper links are shorter than my lowers, and I'm getting a lot of pinion angle change. Yes. What can I do to keep my pinion angle consistent? You need the links to be closer to the same length. I tend to shoot for about 87%. So say your lower link eye to eye is 100 millimeters. Start with your upper link at 87 millimeters and tune from there. If you have your upper and as like with this guy, your upper and lower links will have different mounting points. Like this mounts further back by, I would say, 8 millimeters or so. So this guy is going to mount further back as well, but some rigs do have pretty big disparities between the upper link and the lower link. The way that the Bronco I'm working on that's currently set up, the upper links are like 25, 28 millimeters shorter than the lower links. And I think it's probably suboptimal, but the gearbox has sort of put us into that situation. You can go over. I have one or two rigs here that, due to peculiarities of their chassis design, the upper link is actually longer than the lower link, but this does not happen often. You generally want to go to that 87, 88, 90% range because that will keep your pinion swing. Like you can see his pinion angle right there. And we have something here that has a lot of suspension travel, like a lot. The original chassis was built for 90s. These are 98s. And if this, and also we have a bunch of anti-squat, so we have non-parallel links. The split at the axle is probably around in the neighborhood of 28 millimeters, and the split at the chassis is 40 millimeters. So we have perhaps too much anti-squat, but we're in the highest hole, so we can tune it out. So with links level, 87% or thereabouts should keep your pinion change pretty minimal. And depending, and then if you drop that upper link, if you take some of the anti-squat out, it will cause, instead of the pinion angle to rise like this one, it will cause the pinion angle to dive, which is what a lot of people want, because you just don't want to get that extreme angle at full compression. And he says, and on a buggy, I don't know, like bouncer, basher, crawler, we can get away with some more extreme angles as long as we're not binding the U-joints, because we're never really moving at any kind of speed. Jordan 001. Now you got me wondering if all the Ascent needed was an axle swap. I don't think so. I think the axles, the Gen 9s are the biggest problem with the Ascent, but then they are just first on a list of a laundry list of problems with the Ascent. The Panhard connection, the fact that the front upper link is on the wrong side of the chassis, the fact that the chassis has no pinch, or the chassis has no pinch. There's your center chassis, and there's your front bumper mount. No pinch makes a chassis more liable to twist. And they had to do this because they're using 3mm steel rails, and I don't think they would want to bend very much. So to get around that twisting, they put tons and tons of plastic attachment pieces to stop it from twisting. This, as it's currently configured, that's all we need, because we are pinched now. We're not twisting anywhere. We'll look at this for a little while. What is your Gibson Life 573? What is your preferred rate on underdrive and overdrive? Like, what do you shoot for as a total? 20%. The low, I would say the low end is 12. So optional in an Element Stealth X, they always give you those optional gears that'll take you up to 12%. Anything under 12% is basically not noticeable to me. Like Vanquish at 6.5 out of the VFD or the Twin, I can't tell it's there at all. 0.0 feels the same to me as 6.5. 12 is where you can start to get a little bit of benefit, and there's no real drawback to it. Stealth XFs and other have taken us into the realm of 18%. So, and also you will notice that most times when you're changing ring and pinion, it will be 9 to 10% at one end and 9 to 10% at the other end, which means if you put them together, you're getting that 18 to 20%. So that's where I shoot for. We have a number of rigs that are at 0%. I would honestly, 6.5 is fine. It's going to tighten your turning radius the tiniest little bit, but I don't think it's going to help in most situations. That just could be my own ignorance and the way that I like to tune rigs and the way that I like to see things work. Anything above around 25, I have found to be too much. It can, especially if it's not dynamic. Like in a VFD Twin from Vanquish, you go up to like 46% as the big overdrive, and that's big. That's an overdrive I don't want all the time. I don't want 30% all the time. 25% all the time is livable, but you have to realize you're getting some of that. You're moving traction forward by increasing that underdrive to the rear, but side hilling is going to suffer. A lot of things suffer. 20% is 20% is the good number. Because you'll still be able to side hill, you will still be able to drive on flat ground and it not look like you're dragging your rear tires behind you. This rig is 0.0. There's none in it right now, and he does pretty well, but I think he could stand for some underdrive in the rear. In my opinion, stealth foams, Proline trenchers or Proline swampers. I mean, to be honest, I don't really like either. I don't dislike them, but I don't prefer them. The trencher is too tight. Much like the J-Concept Scorpio. We've got one of the... Ooh, he's really wedged in there. When you have a tread pattern that tight, it loads all the time, and they get really rig specific. Some operations are okay with a lug that's that tight, and some rig you can put it on one rig and it will not like it at all. The Swamper is the complete other end of the spectrum. Do I have anything that's Swamper or Swamper clone up here? I mean, the hold is as close to something Swamper, but we don't have the center line of lugs. I thought I had some old Swampers up here on the rack. I prefer the Swamper pattern to something really tight lugged like this. We've seen that a lot of open space. One of my favorite tires ever is the Deepwoods and or let's say Canyon Trails. You want about a 50-50 ratio is what it seems. 50% lugs, 50% not lugs. Whereas these are Scorpios and Trenchers are in kind of a 70-30 range. And I just find that that's not as versatile. So that's just me. And as to what's better on the rocks between Trenchers and Swampers, that's going to depend on your rig, and that's going to depend on what kind of rocks you're driving on. It really is. The Canyon, as people have sort of pointed out to me, is a lower grip surface, and it is. Because what we have in rock is river rock, and what we have, the rest of it, is a simulation of concrete. So the grip is not nearly as high that are people driving out on sandstone or any kind of broken, like natural rock. Will be much, 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 much higher grip. As I've said, if you're looking at a tire review, someone testing a tire, if that tire test is coming out of like Southwest Utah, don't take that into account unless you live in Southwest Utah. The amount of grip on that sandstone is insanely high compared to pretty much everywhere else. It's like driving around on 60 grit sandpaper. To be chic, I'm shocked that the axles were the last thing to get replaced instead of the first. He's so quiet now and almost no Red Cat left. Yeah, that's true. The Gen 9s were the worst of it. And I could tell from the very beginning that they were the worst of it. But I was being potentially too zen. I was trying to be, adapt the Red Cat to me, I was trying to adapt myself to the Red Cat rather than adapt the Red Cat to myself. I'll give you something else to look at here. You can play a game of Spot the Differences. Shoyolor 1707. What shock oil is being used in the Zoku rig? I don't know. It was on Dravtex, and Dravtex like it light. I fill Dravtex with 27.5 or 300 CST. That comes with everything. Everybody's got those bunches of little bottles from Element and Traxxas and whoever. It's almost universally 300 CST. That's what all of my 2660s, aka Traxxas Big Bores, and Dravtex are. All of them. Every one I've got is 27.5 weight. So I'm going to assume that the Zoku rig was filled with something the same. I knew the axle. Stunod 269. Haha, I knew the axle swap was going to come eventually. Yeah, yeah. It was inevitable. It was inevitable. And I just wanted to thank anybody that threw in suggestions on the back bumper situation for how I did the mounts on 27 for the Bronco, because what I've basically made is a body ejector. And anything TF2, Old Blue is a body ejector as well, because I'm too lazy to put screws into the body every time I mount the body. So I just use the set screws from either side, and you land it on its side just right, and the body ejects. So this one, not this one, that one, he's over in Visitor Garage. When that rear bumper hangs, it just pops it off, and then the body falls off the front. So I'm going to figure out something, even if it's as simple as a hole drilled somewhere that allows me to insert a pin that will hold the body in place. As long as there's no pins and holes on the top, I think we're good. So, if you were playing Spot the Differences, there are those. And I had the Red Cat rails around here somewhere. Damn steel Banes of my existence. I don't know where there are. I'm slowly gathering Red Cat parts to throw them all in a box together. So this was the rail. I went off of my own rail, and I knew. Oh, yeah. Okay. Went lay down. And if you want to go lay down on an ascent with the way the FMM is, you have to use a half-height servo. There's 8 millimeters of clearance between the back of the servo and the spur gear. The spur gear mount needs to be remanufactured. I'm going to dig through my bins and see what I've got, because what has happened is, as I had mentioned in the last, in episode 3, I talked about how we're using an element spur because I wanted to go down to a 54 because our clearance between I'm remiss. Our clearance between the chassis and the spur gear there is a millimeter. So I would actually like to go smaller and potentially 48 pitch to bring the noise down even more, because I don't think we're going to get any flex on this. The carbon fiber, especially pinched between there, should be nice and strong. The slipper eliminators from Element are just ever so slightly different size. Let's see if we can watch the wobble. Yeah, you can see it. There it is. See the gear kind of go up and down, and you hear the vuv, 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 vuv. It's because the hole in those and the size of the rod is not the same. That's nobody's fault. I just wanted a 54, and it was the only 54 I had. If I had had some sort of Kimbrough 54 with holes in it, I could have just slapped it on the old mount. But we will adapt. Get these things out of here. We will adapt. These are free. These are free. We'll find somebody to give those to. It'll probably go in the box, all the Red Cat parts. So when I went to lay down, and this is why the chassis had to get remanufactured, I killed the angle. The Panhard, all right. Finger can help. Finger can help, but Finger needs an ally. Where's Fingers at? Oh, nope. I got something even better. We've got the rods from the chassis setup rig. So you've got your Panhard bar, and say it's at this angle, and then you've got your drag link. You want them to be both like that, so parallel on this plane, which is the plane up-down, and you also want them parallel as they go across the chassis like that. Mine are currently a little bit like that. So we still have about 1 millimeter or 2 of bump steer, a tiny little bit. And we do, because the shocks are so long, we get a little bit, see that the axle will swing at full droop, and there's that little bit of bump steer, because I didn't get it quite right. The angle here, you can see. The angle is very close. I think I need a bigger spacer. I have the Panhard spaced down very slightly, and I think it needs about 2 more millimeters of spacer. This is what happens when you're designing from scratch. And then when we look at it from the side here, not quite perfectly parallel. These links all need to be parallel to remove axle swing, to remove bump steer, to get all that stuff in line. But by moving this up and by putting the servo in lay down configuration, what we've got here is steer angle. Steer angle. We're acting like a drift car. So I made the executive decision as I was laying out the rails for cutting to not pay attention to everything. That's how we roll around here. I moved shock holes up at this end, and I moved shock holes down on this end, so we have more lay down. I feel like we're oversprung in the front and undersprung in the rear now, because these were the springs that were chosen for the old chassis, and now here we are. I have multiple holes here for the bumper mount and the servo mount, so I can move them up and down to try to get those angles corrected. And what I did is when I raised the height of these, you can see the height differential between the fronts and the rears. I didn't pay attention, and now I can't get the body to sit as low as I want it to, because you see the little spots of abrasion where the shock towers are rubbing. The biggest part of me doesn't want to cut holes in the hood of that for the shock towers, because I feel too compy. But if I were to cut holes in the hood of that for the shock towers, I could slam this body down. And we omitted, so when we were laying it out, I made the decision to omit the Red Cat chassis, because I wanted to get a chassis that has the standard like axial 3-gear bolt spacing. which moved the transmission over about 10 millimeters to the driver's side. I don't know what that's going to do to the overall weight distribution, but what it did do is it put the front drive shaft pretty much straight in a line. Things got bumped up, so now when we're at full compression in the front, the drive shaft can't touch the motor anymore. We have way too much suspension travel. We have way too much flex. What do I have for, we have way too much flex. We want to be around there. I can limit it out physically by just moving the sharks up so that the axle will hit the frame, but I also raised up the frame so there's more clearance there. And then as pointed out mere moments ago, there's no pinch with the Red Cat parts. It's 65 millimeters in the center and 65 millimeters at the end. This guy is 76 millimeters wide, so you can see the pinch there. And because we're pinched, I can get that amount of flex, but there's just nothing. And also, this guy can use his, because there's no motor, because we went FMM, I think this guy will fit through. Yeah, we can. You could run him through with a sword and not hit any valuable organs. So there is a very high chance of repositioning, of the very least, the battery. Put the battery in there where the motor would ordinarily go. Center that weight. But he's got to get a little bit of wheel. His front springing solution isn't done. He's completely untuned. I finished putting the chassis together about a half an hour ago. So, also when this straightened out, and then the element center not being completely the same as the Red Cat, it shortened the front drive shaft a little bit, and then you can see a little bit of spline sticking out. So our skid moved forward nominally, like maybe 3 millimeters forward, so we're a little bit forward. So I didn't change any of the links, so we're gonna see how that works. I did have to manufacture new Panhard and drag link. That is a Traxxas horn. We had to do the usual Traxxas magic, where you grind a bunch of the back off of the steel, right? Can we point it right there? You got to grind a bunch of that off because there are some little silver spots on the servo. Yeah, see that little gleam right there by NSTRC where it looks like an asterisk? That was from the steel horn wanging into the thing because the mount was in the wrong spot. I cut into the old chassis rail so much trying to get it to work, and finally got to a point where I said, you're not going to get it. It's better to just start over. So that's what I did. So we have a couple options. We can just chop the whole top of the shock tower off at that top line of holes, because I don't think I'm going to be using that top line of holes. I went too high with those holes, and I think that might bring us down enough to where we can go to the lower body mount position and get the body to sit down a little nicer. Because as it sits now, it's not awful, but and they make a more aggressive Velcro. This Velcro is pretty aggressive. So when we set it down, we're pretty high up. We're pretty high up, because if we go down all the way, now the shock towers are pressed in up against the hood. It's still mostly level, but cosmetically. I mean, the internal debate I'm having is, am I willing to cut holes in the hood to not have this showing? And that's what the point. So now he's got a little. Oh, and now we have plenty of room for me to weld up like a little bull bar and a stinger for the front. We've got plenty of room there. But he's sitting great, and he feels pretty great. Oh, there is one thing I've got to do. This hasn't happened. I don't remember any of the old numbers. I just know that he was light. He was pretty darn light. We are in grams. 2255. That's fully RTR, powered up, wheels on, everything. In Freedom units, 4.967. Definitely got lighter, because I am convinced he was not under 5 pounds. There's knuckle weights on there. The whole oh, but yes, I would be remiss. Gen 9 axles are absurdly heavy. I weighed a bunch of axles yesterday, and a Gen 9 axle I weighed them up against some AR-45s. A Gen 9 front axle weighs as much as a pair of AR-45s. Stupid. All right, so here's what we're going to do. I just brought one out for lookies. One of the questions that I glossed over was our good buddy Erwin from Belgium asked, how much of what we saw in the last installment do I think is tires? And I can't deny that these are pretty darn good. So I just noticed as I pulled it off the rack, these are cut Cypress Canyon trails on, I think they're Canyon mediums all the way around. Yes, this is basically an identical combo. Oh, that orange will probably look pretty good. That's an identical combo to Baseline's all day, everyday shoes. So we're going to grab those. As I said, this is an unofficial, it came from the Workbench Volume 26 takeover. We're doing it all together in one. And then I am going to find some wheels, and we're going to mount up these deep woods. And we're gonna try. So we're gonna do that trio. We'll hit some obstacles. I'll put some different tires on. We'll hit some other obstacles, and we'll see how it goes. Because I am also curious as to, ow, that Gorilla Tape was stuck to my forearm. I am curious as to how much of it is this tire. So we were gonna try it on some other tires once I figure out some rims to put in these. And then we'll call it a day, and I will unleash you all upon the weekend, except for a lot of you Europeans where it's already the weekend by the time you're watching this. So follow me outdoors, if you will. We're gonna go. It's right about that way, right there. So I'm not sure 100% of anything, except one thing. Okay, I'm 100% sure of one thing. The wind has definitely kicked up. We had unforecast rain last night, so the rock should be nice and clean. But the wind has kicked up, so we will try to move things along. I had one initial concern, and that is this. Going to the other skid, the skid is going to sit a little lower. We need to get into a position where I can try to hang the skid on anything to find out if it's actually hanging on anything. Okay, the sub 5 pounds of this, it feels extraordinarily zippy. All right, I mean, maybe it's entirely possible that we're wrong. We're wrong often. And by that, I had made mention of feeling like the springing, neither the springing nor the damping were right, and we still don't have the axle swing and bump steer tamed down all the way. Honestly, I can feel a little bit of the lightness. Like, I can feel how light this is. We're gonna run the circuit we run in reverse. And I remembered not to just drive over the other side, because just out of frame right, there's a huge puddle, which I have drilled a bunch of holes in it with a masonry bit, trying to get that puddle to drain, and it just doesn't. That is sitting really flat. We don't have a lot of weight. Okay, let's see. Is it going to overload? This is single stage. This is just foam. Yeah, there it goes. But if we go higher attack, I think, the nimbleness is crazy. Yeah, this is a whole different thing from what I drove in the last installment. But how are we going to do here at the weight transfer station? Oh my. So I had mentioned moving link positions. We've gotten more anti-squat. I looked at the hole that we were using, which was the highest hole, and then I moved all the holes up for the chassis side upper link mount, and then I moved all the way up again. We've got a huge amount, and I don't know if it's that these tires, because they have so much forward drive, we can just absolutely take advantage of it. The turning radius on this is one of the tightest that we've got. The maneuverability, I thought it was going to overflex in the rear. I thought we were too firm in the front, too soft in the rear. This is apparently not the case. Look at that thing just dangling out, and it is rock solid stable. Everybody likes the surprise. I'm trying to drive by sound. I can't see. It didn't work. I don't know where I am. I drove through like a 1-inch deep puddle. So I think everyone prefers to be pleasantly surprised. The further right you go up towards the big mottled rock, the more difficult it is. I made a thing. I definitely made something. The width seems right. The wheelbase seems right. That little bit of bump steer, I do not notice at all. Yet, as I was just telling my buddy, I'm not committed to these tires on here at all. Although, I mean, it is going to be tough competition for these other tires. These are perhaps perfectly matched. The turning angle is ridiculous compared to the Gen 9. It is not comparable. I take it back. We can't compare it. So we might as well try for something that is... Okay, that push out to that side is generally a little easier. Try to hook there. It's not a lot of bite right there. Kind of got to shove it out this way, which makes it a little more side hilly. Yeah. It's almost like easy mode. We will do canyon trails and then deep woods. Yeah. Let's do that. So what we have here, these are RTR compound canyon trails, which is a thing that no longer exists. And these are on canyon mediums all around, which is Hairbun over Timtin. So compared to the Endura S4, particularly on a single stage, we should be looking at firmer compound for the tire as well as firmer insert. And if anything, I notice a little bit more, the maneuverability is a little finer, because I think we have a lot less deflection come from the insert. Now, in a test of pure, nothing but forward drive, that little bit of coming up over the bean, come across here. Do we lose any ground clearance? No. How about our turn in? Feels about the same. Looks pretty good on those orange wheels there. Does not look bad at all. Yeah, very stable. Very stable and genuinely surprising with how much firmer the insert is. Not that I was watching out for puddles before, but we need to watch out for them a lot less. Okay, there's a little bit. The pin, get it over. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we can't quite be as bold and cavalier with our line choice on this tire within this insert. It's firmer. I can feel the firmness a little bit. I think these will do a little better. These will be a little more well-rounded because due to the insert. How's our turning in look? Yeah, it feels a little bit more crisp. And I figured that's just the tire folding over a little bit on the single stage. I'm feeling a little bit more slip here, but nowhere am I feeling, it feels more, can I feel more slip and more planted at the same time? Because I kind of do. Now, if there's somewhere where I want to see an improvement, it's here on Side Hill. The Deep Woods and the Canyon Trails should do better here on the Side Hill, as they've got, you know, sidewall support. I'm going to go in straight and let that weight transfer. Absolutely just nailed to the ground. Never did I feel any, not an inkling of lift. And the Canyon Trails are, as one would expect, significantly wider than the Enjoras. Weight from one set to the other should be about the same. Okay, that was a little better on the Canyon Trails than the Enjoras, but how about right across here? Didn't quite get the entry we would have liked. See, right here, the Enjoras shone a little more brightly. I don't know what I have stuck right there. I don't know what I'm stuck on. Yeah, we might have achieved a configuration where I don't know if you ever have to get up and the Rattle Cat will rattle himself free. Okay, more that side, and yeah, there it is. Yeah, I think S1s, and we're right there. I feel more, just pure forward drive, there's more out of the Enjoras, but we're talking about an open cell single stage foam versus a hair bun wrapped around a closed cell inner. So there's significantly less compliance in these Canyon Trails. We would expect there to be a bigger loss of forward drive, and there really isn't. There's some hesitation in the tire. It's not as immediate as the Enjoras, but overall, I think the maneuverability is up. So now, my goodness, am I excited for the Deep Woods. Deep Woods. All right, whatever hub is on the orange wheels, I guess that it didn't appear any wider to me overall, but the hub either has to be thicker or the offset is a little bigger, because the lock nut was basically flush with the end of the axle on the orange wheels with the Canyon Trails, and on these I've got 3-4 millimeters of thread showing on either side, so we are 6 to 8 millimeters narrower on the Deep Woods. But I feel like, oh, that's a hang right there. No, it isn't. Oh my goodness. See, we have more vertical compliance now and more forward drive as well. We have more of everything. Now, full disclosure, as you saw them on the bench, these are Deep Woods with squid inserts in them. So this is all nukes right here. So we really don't have to worry about water now. We'll drive right down through the lake. We'll hit the side hill wet, it don't matter. Yeah, this feels, we'll see. What do we get for collapse? Nothing. Absolutely, planted. More planted than it was on the canyon trails. This is, I mean, how angled over do you want it to get? Doesn't matter. Absolutely planted. It's going to be hard to take these off here. I don't know if I will. Let's just blunt end in, not paying attention to the approach line. Ooh. Nobody's the best at everything. Okay. Okay, we'll try the right-hand side. A little more on the right-hand side. Okay. I've been trying to mentally tally. He was full turtled, and the way the body is and the way his CG is, his rear wheels tip down, touch the ground. You give it a little throttle, he kind of pops back onto his wheels. So no tire is going to be the best at everything. Can't quite get that lip right there. Yeah, both the canyon trails and the... I think we just... Oh, it's the same as a wheel nut. So unless the slipper nut has fallen all the way off, we should be able to fix this. All right, let's first sit down and taco about what the problem was. It was not the slipper nut. I checked the nut was tight. I could rotate the top shaft without the drive shafts moving. So I said, probably the pin in the lay shaft, you know, the pin, the shaft that the spur would ordinarily be attached to, but now has a drive shaft attached to it. I thought it would be that. So I took it inside, popped the gearbox open. That's not it. Gearbox is fine on the inside. And then I notice the spur gear is sitting at kind of an angle, and I took some pictures as I was laboring. The plastic slipper eliminators for Associated, they just rounded out for Element, just rounded out. So it just rounded out the plastic. It was still tight enough that it would give you a little bit of drive, but not enough. So this time I finally sat down, got out the caliper. The shaft to hold the pads or the spur or the eliminator or whatever for the Red Cat is 4mm, and the hole in the Associated stuff is 5mm. So that was enough. So I got some aluminum and I turned myself a little sleeve adapter, 4mm ID, 5mm OD, and basically custom fit it to the 54 tooth spur that is on there. And it took out that eccentricity that was brought about by the 1mm difference in spacing. And this thing is back to as quiet as it has ever been. There are no slipper guts attached to the slipper. It's just the pads bolted all the way down. And as you can see, now that we have full drive, it will just go. I am going to put, I mean, there's enough room to put a spring, so I am either going to put the washer stack or the spring in place so that we can have a functional slipper here. Because now we're right back with the amount of drive. So who knows how long that was slipping, but it is fixed now. The turning on this, and listen to quiet, the turning on this thing is mental. So honestly, it is quite likely he's going to just stay just like this. I love a deep woods. Rattle Cat is a new man in total. Honestly, I'm noticing a little bit of shutter judder that I didn't notice before, and I think it was because we had basically like a shock absorber. We had a torque absorber in the drivetrain that was like taking some of the immediacy out. Well, we had a slipper. Like turning circle isn't quite as tight as it was. I think I had landed on some sort of perfect imperfection, and now I have to try to tune my way back into it. I think the overall most consistent performer that we've got are these deep woods. That is so, it made the pull. If you make the mini bean, you've done something, and this can does and did. It maneuvers so flat. I still don't want to cut holes in the hood. I might just, and I think the shock position in the front is perfect. And I think if anything, what I might do is take the Traxxas. We are running orange fronts, which are 2 pound, and white rears, which are 1.6. Orange fronts, white rears, 2.0, 1.6, yeah, in Traxxas springs. And they are designed around a 90 millimeter GTS. These are 98s. These are Basecamp stock shocks. So I think what I will do is put Element yellows, not Element, Axial yellows in the front, which are 2 pound. And we'll see if that takes up the gap, but does, because these springs kind of fall around, they get loosey-goosey on the cups. We'll see if that fixes that without raising the ride height, because we might have some lowering action in effect by the spring being too short for the shock. Man, he needs the full treatment. The slipper needs tended to. He needs a full going through with dry slide. Look at when that rear is compressed. Look how laid down that rear shock is. I could stand that rear shock up a lot more, but I'm not mad at it at all. I think on this tire combo, we've got a little bit of tweaking. A bumper. We'll get a bumper going on this guy for 26. Episode 5. This was an episode 4. This was a little bit of a takeover. This guy is real good. He is the Rattle Cat, but he's not a Rattle Cat anymore because there are no rattles. He's got a little bit of squeaks right now, but other than that, he's almost as quiet as Toothless, and that's quiet stuff. It's also really nice. It feels good, man, to have some deep woods back in service in the fleet. They'd all just kind of gotten shuttled around, and I am not opposed to deep woods with squid inserts on here, and I'm not opposed to those silver wheels at all. I think they look great with the silver chassis and the blue and orange body. I hope you all enjoyed the day. It has been a long one for me. I should have been editing an hour ago, so this one will be in the crunch to get it up in time. So I will take this opportunity to thank you all so very much for watching. Thank you for joining us here in the Canyon. Rattle Cat and I loved having you. We hope you have a fantastic weekend. We hope you tune in to see whatever comes next. We hope you like, subscribe. We hope you comment below with any questions, comments, concerns, or just to say, hey man, what's going on? And we will see you in the next installment of whatever. And in between now and when that occurs, we invite you one and all to do your very best. Have a good one, everybody. We'll see you in the next one here from the Canyon. Rattle Cat, you are in the perfect position to roll them out.